Hi there, I'm Costas with Resolve Photo.
And I'm Brady.
And today we're talking about matte and glossy papers. First, we'd like to introduce our artist.
So this is one of our longtime customers, Julya. And Julya is doing these incredible series of nature photographs where she's photographing these on a flatbed scanner.
Yeah. She forages and then works it all up either in the field in a teardrop trailer that she has designed and built herself in order to do these. She's been featured in National Geographic. That was a couple of years ago. And she's been on a lot of shows in Alberta and in BC. So really rad, one of the best humans ever. And we're just really glad that she let us talk about her images when it comes to glossy and matte papers. So first paper, Ilford Smooth Pearl. And this one is a classic photo paper. It is kind of that luster finish. So if you were going to a drugstore and you were asking for a photo paper, you'd kind of have two choices. You'd have glossy and matte. And this is what you would get if you asked for matte.
Sometimes people call it like a pearl, but
luster.
Yeah, luster.
Luster, pearl. And so resin coated, and the texture is what is used to make it matte. So the fun thing about this is we don't consider it matte, do we?
No.
So we consider anything that has any sort of glare to be glossy. So for us, this type of paper that you'd get at a drugstore or that we carry, Ilford Smooth Pearl, we would consider this glossy. We don't consider this matte. Anything you want to add about Ilford Smooth Pearl?
I mean, it's a great, reliable paper. And I think it's a familiar paper for a lot of people. If you're coming from like a drugstore type printing setup, then this is a paper you're going to recognize right away. And I think it's we're including it mostly as a touch point. Like it's a solid paper, but we're including it as a touch point to then say, okay, what do these other papers look like in reference to that?
We love it. Great paper. We call it gloss though. Okay, so now the fun part. This is Hahnemühle Photo Rag, and this is matte. There is absolutely no glare coming off of this. We have it set up here with lots of lights, and you should see zero glare. So for us, when we say something's matte, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So just to give you a rundown on the paper, made by a German mill. They've been making this paper for quite some time, like more than 30 years. One of the first mills to make a digital paper for inkjet printing.
Oh, wow.
And it's 100% cotton. So if you are looking for something conservation grade, archival, this is a great choice in a matte paper. We have a bunch of matte papers, but this is the one that's our most popular and the one we're talking about today to highlight what matte is.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what a fine art gloss looks like. So this one here is Photo Rag Baryta. And it is the same base paper, 100% cotton, but this one has a barium sulfate coating. That's what gives it the name, Baryta. So when we think about a gloss paper, that would be glossy. It has some glare, not as much glare, I think, as what the Ilford Smooth Pearl has. Some people are surprised when we say this is gloss, but that's gloss. It has glare. So when you're choosing between matte and gloss, kind of one of the biggest questions we get here for customers, why choose matte or choose gloss? And there's a couple of reasons. We'll tell you what Julya chose in a minute, but we'll tell you a couple of reasons why you might want one versus the other. So the first is dynamic range, the blacks in particular. A barium sulfate coated print will have a blacker black.
Yeah, it's a very inky, deep black.
Deep black.
If we could just put them side by side for a minute and the overhead camera will catch them, but
let's flip it around so that the overhead camera can see it a little bit better. So yes, the glossy has a blacker black. I like to think of it as black suede shoes versus black patent leather shoes. They're both black, but one's just a little blacker. So that just means it's gonna have a little bit more dynamic range. The blackest black is gonna be blacker. If the whites are the same, then your dynamic range is a little bit higher. So if you're looking for really deep inky blacks, a gloss is a great choice. Okay,
Are we not seeing a significant difference in the highlights then?
Not in this particular case. The matte paper, Photo Rag, is a little bit more neutral in the white. This one's a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
So there's that to consider. But in general, I don't know. The whites seem like they have about the same fall off. Brighter papers will have more of a dynamic range. But in this case, we're trying to keep it pretty equal.
Yeah.
And the highlights, I think, are relatively the same.
Yeah.
So saturation. What do you think about the saturation in these two?
I mean, yeah, I think this one here, the gloss, has a higher saturation for sure. You can see that in the colors, especially. I mean, we're gonna get to it, but a lot of punch, right? In that color.
Yeah. So saturation and punch, kind of to me, sometimes are used pretty interchangeably.
Yeah.
And we're talking, gloss will have a little bit more punch, and matte will just be a little bit less, a little more kind of livable.
Yeah, like it's a more subtle experience. Than
the gloss.
Yeah.
Okay, perceived sharpness.
Yeah, I think this is one of the bigger ones for me that I noticed after the blacks is that perceived sharpness is significantly higher on a lot of gloss papers.
Yeah, they just give you that impression. Yeah. And I don't know if that has more to do with the dynamic range, but yeah, it does feel a little sharper. They're contrastier.
I mean, it could be a micro contrast thing because it's like the dynamic range,
Although in Julia's work, they're both ridiculously sharp.
They are both very sharp. So, like it's almost like you think you're seeing it, and then you look at like these areas here, and there's no loss.
No, there's no loss.
These areas here, there's no loss. But it feels like there's a sharpness difference here between, it's really like a color difference more than a sharpness difference.
So I'd say the sharpness isn't really something to consider all that much when you're trying to decide between these two. They're both really sharp.
Yeah.
Durability,
okay. So, I mean, I tend to I print a lot of stuff on Photo Rag Baryta because it is a very durable paper, especially for things like a portfolio.
Yep.
It's gonna get handled a lot. This will stand up to that a little bit better. You've told me I've printed some of these and they're hard to.
Yeah. If I were to run a fingernail across this, you would see it.
Yeah.
And it would be there forever. So the Photo Rag matte paper is a little less durable than anything that has a gloss on it. And the resin coated Ilford Smooth Pearl is the most durable. So if durability is a concern, the glossy papers do have an edge when it comes to that.
But once you're behind glass,
once it's behind glass,
it's not a difference that's meaningful.
No. Yeah, but for portfolios and when you're showing your work and your book, that sort of thing, that's that I think gloss is a winner there.
Yeah.
Okay, the big one, vibes.
Yeah, you love this one.
I love vibes,
but I think it's really important, and it's not one you can measure, but it's important.
I think vibes is the most important for me. It's the most important measure. I have a question that I like to ask everybody when they are trying to decide between gloss and matte, and it's, what do you want your audience to feel? And the touchy-feely bit kind of confuses a lot of photographers at first, but it really does help narrow down that choice kind of immediately. So if you are thinking, I want punch, and I want someone to be just immediately impacted by the image, gloss is the way to go. You can't go wrong with it. However, if you are thinking about something that is like a little more introspective and that you want in your somber living room? No, not somber. Your chill living room. Thing that you just want to relax in. Maybe something super glossy and bright that's demanding attention all the time isn't what you want for that vibe. So vibes, think about the vibe that you're trying to portray. And in the case of Julia, the vibe was something that was a little bit more reflective and something that was a little more introspective and something a little more livable.
Yeah.
And so she went with these beautiful Photo Rag matte prints.
And it's an incredible choice, especially for the subject matter. I think I like that you brought this point about how much does it draw you in right away and that demand attention is what you said. And this has this almost advertising, it's punchy, it wants your attention, but then to me, it doesn't hold my attention as long as this does. Once I'm in this, there's a much more contemplative approach to looking at this image. I want to spend more time with it, and it's quieter image in a way.
It's quieter image.
Yeah.
Yeah. So vibes. I think vibes is the number one reason to pick matte or glossy. And you'll never see this one out in the wild.
No.
Because I don't even know how long it was. Was it about 10 years ago where Julya did all her testing to determine what she was after? And this is it. And if you ever see Julya's work out there, you will see it on a matte. At least in this series of her work.
Yeah.
All matte, all photo rag, all very beautiful. Okay, well, thanks for joining us for matte versus gloss. Well, not even matte versus gloss. Matte to gloss. Because it's a giant continuum. There is so much.
For sure,
in
and we only picked two kind of papers that were similar in their base paper, but different in their coating. But there's actually, you can go more gloss than this, and you can go more textured than that, although not necessarily more matte than that.
No, that's about as matte as I can get. But then there's some fun papers that are matte that ink load makes them glossy. So there's a lot to explore in the matte to glossy universe. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed our little bit about matte and gloss today. Take care.
Thanks so much.